What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Pop Cult Cast channel. And welcome to the last episode of 2022, where we're going to be recapping our top 5 media moments, media itself, video games, all that happened throughout the year. But before we get into it, I want you guys to do the YouTube stuff. I want you to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Come on, guys. We're the Pop Cult Cast. We got to stick together. And before we go on, I gotta do the thing. I gotta talk to my co-host Caleb real quick. How you doing, man? So you got the
I'm
Christmas tree
doing
in the back?
phenomenal, man. It's good to see you. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Christmas cheers going around. As of the time of this recording, we're recording on the 14th. You guys are gonna get this way later, like probably on the 30th. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're getting the Christmas cheer going. So I like the tree in the back. Is that a real tree or is that a fake tree?
Oh, of course it's fake. It's like 9 feet tall, dude. Actually, there probably would be a lot here that's 9 feet in Washington State, but Missouri, no. I feel like you can't get them that big.
Yeah, my tree is so small. Like, it's funny how like as the time progresses, like you grow older. Like maybe it's just me, but like the family tree gets like smaller and smaller. Like I've cycled through so many trees at this point that our tree is like barely like super notable. But
Yeah, who wants to deal with that? You know what I mean?
Exactly,
like,
right? Like doing
taking
all
it up,
that.
taking it down.
Exactly. So, without further ado, let's get into this list. I'm very excited. I want to start off with honorable mentions first. So, for me, I'll start with my first honorable mention. I think it will be a crime to not mention this moment. And I think it's the Will Smith and Chris Rock slap situation.
Yeah.
I think that moment just like, when it happened, it just blew social media like out the water. Like wherever you went, like it was a comment or like a meme or something about the Will Smith and Chris Rock situation. And like for me, it's like that, but I think another big moment about it is that we haven't seen celebrities get quote unquote like violent like that, like outwardly. So it was like a really weird situation for I think a lot of the population to sort of look at, especially someone like Will Smith, where like he just never gets angry like that. And it spawned so many conversations on like gender roles, like should you stick up for your wife in this situation, would you not, like stuff like that. I think that whole situation was just like it was just kind of raw, and like especially in the social media age when like celebrities are like social media is so like fabricated, something like this, like something just so like a raw human emotion is just it felt weirdly kind of good to watch. What about you?
Yeah, it's so odd because you realize it was a bad moment for like Will personally, obviously. Like you could tell there's a lot of emotional buildup to that night and his choice in the actions where everything just kind of like came to a head. It was just an unfortunate thing for him. Definitely unfortunate for Chris Rock and his wife Jada. But the conversation that it started online was really interesting. Like past the memes and jokes, people, like you said, were talking about like, well, what would you do in that situation? Like if you felt like this, could you blame somebody for acting that way? And in a weird way, I think like that's a good thing. Like Will Smith makes all these amazing movies, but like could he have ever hoped that one of his films like started a conversation as like much as that awful moment that he's gonna want to forget forever at the Oscars.
Right. Like that moment is definitely one of those, like it's funny to think that Will Smith has like a cringe moment in his head. Like he just looks back and he just starts cringing. He's like, oh, I wish I never did that.
Did you see he was asking or saying that he's not sure if fans are ready for him to come back and he wants like fans to be ready to watch his films again someday, something to that extent, but he's very aware, or at least he feels aware that nobody likes him or wants him in movies anymore. But that's like, dude, personally, that's crazy. If Will Smith dropped a film right now, I think he does have one that came out this month.
Yeah, I heard about that one. Yeah.
I'll watch it. Like, I was never going to stop watching Will Smith after this. Like, he is, without a doubt, one of the best actors of our time. That's why he won an Oscar at the night that should have been the best night of his life, but turned out to be the worst.
Right. Oh, wow. That's so.
What about you? Would you ever quit watching Will Smith movies or feel like you're on a hiatus because he messed up so bad or something?
Actually, hot take. I'm not the hugest fan of Will Smith. I'll give it a buck. Like, I mean, like Fresh Prince, sure, Shark Tale, sure. But like, I don't know, like I think Will Smith has this sort of audience of like actually what I mean, Pursuit of Happiness too is so let me take it back a little bit. I think he's a great actor, I think he's a great performer, I think he's a great entertainer, but like if Will Smith is in an action movie like Gemini Man. Was I clamoring to go see Gemini Man? Not really. Like, I think Will Smith needs to be in the right role for me to be like, hey, I really want to go see this. Like wasn't this? It's a biopic about Serena Williams's father, like the Williams' fathers, our father.
Yeah, it was.
I really want to see that at some point. I think it's on HBO Max, so I'll watch it at some point.
That's what he won the Oscar for.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I Will Smith he's cool, but he's not my like top 5 or whatever. But
do you feel like it's not as much as him as an actor? Because I think he's an amazing actor, but he does have some really odd choices when it comes to the films that he's chosen to take on versus others. Like, there's that huge, not really controversy, but it made like headlines that he was originally asked to be Django in Django Unchained.
Oh,
but
really?
He said no due to creative differences. Like, I'm sorry, that's a role you don't turn down. Like, I think that was probably one of the biggest films in like pop culture for like 10 years.
Yeah.
5-10 years. Like Django Unchained was a big deal. And he said no because he wanted it to be more of like a romantic film. Anybody who watches is like, it's got the perfect balance, action, humor, the romance, like it's a true love story. It's about a guy going to get his wife through insurmountable odds. And he turned it down and let Jamie Foxx come into it, but then he took on, like you said, Gemini Man. Like, who cares about that? Like,
that's what he traded projects for?
I don't know what he traded it for, but can you think of anything around like 2012, 2013 that Will Smith was in that you were like, oh my God, wow, amazing? No, but you can remember Django Unchained dropping about that time. And
now that you bring it up, like I genuinely could not have seen Will Smith play Django. I mean, maybe it's just like hindsight bias or like just like sort of just a bias in general, like of seeing Jamie Foxx in that role. Like I can't think of I can't think of someone that could have played that role better. Like, especially not Will Smith. I don't think Will Smith could have played that role at all.
Can you imagine they drop all the comedic elements from the film and just cast Denzel Washington? It's just some gritty, like very brutal about a guy getting his wife back.
Right.
All the awards.
Well, actually, let's go on to our next honorable mention. Do you have any honorable mentions, Caleb?
I'm gonna say no, and we'll explain why later. But
okay,
I think I'm stuck with 5
for sure. Let's see. My honorable mention is a little bloated, so I'll just kind of I'll rapid fire some of these. So I don't know if you knew, but Drake released what was that? The album name? I totally forgot, but it was sort of like an EDM sort of album. Like it was far away from Drake's sort of wheelhouse, right? So Anthony Fantano of The Needle Drop on YouTube did his like little review on it, and he's like, it was a not good review. So some time passes, and then Drake apparently DMs Anthony Fantano, and like kind of I'm not sure if it was a threat or he was just like so like Anthony Fantano's whole thing is like saying like, oh, it's like a 0 to light 2 or like 7 to light 10. So Drake DMs him like, oh, your life is like a 0 to light 2, bro. It's like, Drake, come on now, like you're being very fragile right now. So like seeing that like Anthony Fantano expose Drake, it kind of just shows that Drake is just very like maybe in his death throes of his music career, in my opinion.
It feels like that a little bit. I'm not gonna say like like close the casket, throw him in there, 6 feet under, but
not yet.
I don't feel like Drake gets the reaction that he used to like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like if his songs were to come on at the club right now,
it's like
he gets some nostalgia shaking, but nobody really cares.
Right. Exactly. My other honorable mention is, this is like a kind of a negative one because it kind of snowballed into what it is now. But the Kanye versus Pete Davidson sort of thing was, in my opinion, was hilarious. The memes were crazy when he not retweet, but when he posted on his story of like the Civil War like poster, but like has like Kanye's face and like everybody's face on it. That was hilarious, bro. And it's like that you can sort of pinpoint that instance of like Kanye's downward spiral. And like I don't want to glorify that, but I'm not gonna lie, that was hilarious. The whole thing about Skeet Davidson, that's classic.
I feel like you could just say Pete Davidson is the honorable mention for 2022 because I think that man's dating history went under a microscope because everybody's like, yo, what is this tatted honestly 5 in the Midwest doing dating at Kardashian, dating Ariana
Yes.
Grande. Like I think he's dated Kate Beckinsale. Like every major attractive woman in Hollywood, it's like he's got their number and he
That
could be the
literally is the honorable mention right there. Screw Kanye, Pete Davidson. His like history is so like crazy. Like when you like if you don't know, guys, if you don't know who Pete Davidson has dated, like just look up his entire history. It's like just complete beautiful women. It's like wow. You go Pete Davidson, you go. But
how. Like I truly want to know. Like I know he's a comedian and he's funny, and I
yeah.
think confidence and humor goes a long way. Like if you can just be like calm, collected, and hilarious like all the time, then who wouldn't want to be around you, guys or girls? But it
Mhm.
still blows my mind. Like
Yeah,
how did
yeah.
Kim K end up with him this year?
His Riz has to be like through the roof. Like he's just on another level than we have any comprehension of.
Dude, he's just got a crazy social circle. Like, outside of Kanye, like him and Kanye were friends before the whole beef that you mentioned went down. But I
Mhm.
know that he's friends with Kid Cudi,
Yeah.
like I think Bill Burr. Like he's just got this huge group of
Right. And it's
friends
like,
that is,
yeah. And like
you
looking
know,
back at his history of being what is he like the youngest cast member of what was it, SNL or whatever? Like at that point,
mhm.
like he has a lot of time to build those relationships and a lot of like yeah, just a lot of head start room, I'll call it. So like yeah,
Mhm.
he's definitely built up that career for him. So no doubt that he
Yeah,
has
it's
like all
crazy
the
because I don't feel like a lot of SNL members reach that level of fame. Like I feel like it's very rare. Like, you have the obvious members like Chevy Chase, Will Ferrell, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler that end up reaching like superstar levels of heights after they leave the show. But
Mhm.
he's kind of like on this next level where he's like an A-list celeb, just doing like
Right.
gross and SNL. That's kind of crazy.
Mhm. But for my other honorable mentions, so my last two, one of them is Attack on Titan season 4 part 2. Just real quick, Attack on Titan is like I think at this point for me it's probably the best anime of all time. And we're still not finished yet. Season 4 part 3 is probably coming out this year or next year, sorry. Um so just quick shout out to Attack on Titan. Go anime. Literally probably perfect in my opinion. And
So I have a question for you.
yeah.
Do
Mhm.
you crown TV shows as the new GOAT before it's finished? Like, what if the ending is bad?
You know, it's funny that you say that because so like how anime goes, like they kind of go off the manga, right? So the manga's finished for Attack on Titan, and people hate the ending of Attack on Titan, but
Mhm.
the anime for Attack on Titan isn't at that point yet. So it could very well like have a terrible ending, but like I think for me with shows, I definitely rate it for where it is at the moment. So at the
Mhm.
moment, it's definitely the best anime out there. But like if we get to that ending and it is trash, like it would have to be a really bad ending for Attack on Titan to be like that bad to where it just like sinks. But man, perfect anime. If y'all haven't watched it, watch Attack on Titan. I would highly like actually I would be surprised if y'all haven't watched Attack on Titan because it's so popular. I think anywhere you turn, if you're talking about anime, people will say Attack on Titan. So definitely watch that. But my last, I'll mention this one is actually kind of controversial. I'm going to give my last. Ooh, this is gonna be kind of crazy. My last honorable mention goes to Andrew Tate. I'm not saying so. I'm not saying I agree with what he says. I'm not saying that what he says is bad. But what I will say is that I can't remember the last figure to just come out of like the complete ether of the world and to become just a social media like sort of figure like that. Like he like before 2022, like who's Andrew Tate? No one like
Mhm.
not even the whisper of Andrew Tate is being whispered. I know he was like on a few shows when he was like younger, but for him just to make that viral splash, even though like what he's saying is like controversial, like man, that guy definitely just came out the woodwork and just took this whole like discussion between like gender roles and like dating and all this stuff and really turned it to like 1,000 like appearing on different news stations and being interviewed. So Andrew Tate, I'll give it to you. Maybe I don't really you're not a bad guy to me, you're not a good guy, you're just someone that has an opinion that may or not be liked. So I'll give you that, Andrew Tate.
I think it's just so crazy how every male adult in the US and even like young boy in the US just had their TikTok feed for
I'm
you
just
page
straight
hijacked
anti-Tate.
this year. And it like doesn't go away. And you know what? I'll agree with you. I think this is a good honorable mention in the sense that, like you said, you weren't necessarily promoting it as like a good thing. You're just recognizing what was.
Right.
And I think in that spirit, like, yeah, I would have to recognize what was. I don't agree with a lot of the things Andrew Tate sells. As a matter of fact, I feel like some of the things he espouses are very antithetical to my personal philosophy about how you do things, how you perceive the world around you and judge others or choose not to judge. But to say, like, you know, you said it, went from relatively unknown to dominating TikTok feeds around the world
Literally.
is not a small feat. And for those that are interested in how he like did it, like kind of started like a pyramid scheme where people were incentivized to share his videos on social media. And honestly, like that's really smart. Like that's next level. Like it was almost like a cheat code to being famous. Like, hey,
Right.
charge, you know, a few people $5 and tell them they'll get 10 if they share like, you know, 10 of my videos. You make that back and then more, you know, just with all the views you're ultimately going to get. And I think it's been like, it should be a lesson for PR people, for marketing, like what you can actually do with something like TikTok or YouTube if you can hijack an algorithm. I think it's not just PR and like marketers that are learning from it. I would not doubt, like this is gonna be a hot take. I would not doubt that even governments got interested.
Dang.
Because think about it, like one person to that level of fame so fast, like there's got to be so many people looking at the algorithm being like, well, how do we get narratives that we want across? Like, how do we get like a philosophy like Tate's across, our company's philosophy, our cultural philosophy, whatever. Like a lot of people are going to be interested, even people that probably don't agree with him and hate him just because they know what they have to go up against.
Right.
And I think that in and of itself is kind of impressive.
Right.
I think it shows me like how much more can be done through the internet, like how we're never even as close as we think we are. We're still like at the, you know, first 1% of the internet with like so much more to go and how we can innovate, do things and share things through social media. And I think it's just like an evolution of advertising, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And like, let's not forget like how, because like when he was starting to get like his thing rolling, like he eventually got banned from all platforms, and that even sparked a discussion of like what deserves to be, you know, deplatformed and everything. And like, you know, I don't want to get into that debate right now, but just seeing how much of a wave he caused throughout, you know, internet culture was definitely something to behold. But moving on from Andrew Tate, let's get into our top 5. Since I've been talking so much, I want you to let's start with your number 5, Caleb, or whatever, or whichever one you want to start with.
So I feel sad to say this, like, okay, happy and sad, but my number 5 is going to be Scream 5.
Okay.
It's the first Scream film that dropped in 10 years, so I was very excited, so excited that I was at the midnight showing Thursday.
Wow. Okay.
It wasn't exactly at midnight. I know nowadays, like midnight showing is just a really late showing on Thursday, like 8 o'clock or something like that. But I went, bought the ticket, saw it myself, knowing that I had tickets the next day to see it with a friend group. I lied. I played it off like I didn't go see it at midnight the night before. Like we were all getting together and it's like, whoa, so what everybody thinks is like, wow, I was so shocked. But it was my second time seeing it within like 24 hours. That's how like big the hype was. And it was just like a good slasher flick. Like it has the IP, like Scream is a great IP. It's very well known. So it was very enjoyable from like nostalgia purposes. Killed off a very prominent character. So it innovated in a way, you know, it's a very slick requel. But I'm very saddened to say that it's in my top 5. Here's why. So Jordan and I are talking about it before the episode begins. And I was like, you know what? I thought this was like a great year for movies and TV. You know, for pop culture as a whole. But when I'm looking back and I'm like, well, what stuck out to me? Like, I can't even like remember or whatever. And that still sticks out. I feel like maybe it wasn't as good of a year as I thought in terms of movies and TV shows.
Right. And my
Like,
counter argument to that was that maybe we just, because like, especially like this was sort of, we just kind of spawned this idea like in the last few days. So like going back to the entire year, which is it's a pretty big like undertaking. So like definitely looking back, or even moving forward, like when we actually start to pay attention and like sort of put these like events on like a note and like look back at the podcast the episodes, we can really be like, oh wow, yeah, this did happen. Like just have a stronger sort of relation to these lists. But yeah, I mean, did you see the trailer for Scream 6?
I did. I first thing I did when I woke up today, because I knew it was dropping, so I couldn't wait. And it's sad to say, but I don't know why there's so many fans of the Scream franchise that are so into it that we have a lot of leakers, like people that want leaks. So I actually had the whole rundown of the like trailer before I watched it.
Wait, like, well, what do you mean? So like
I knew exactly what was going to happen in the trailer. And then I saw it, so I was like, oh wow, like no, like there's nothing new to learn here. So it kind of killed some hype for me. I don't know why I do that to myself.
Random tangent, but do you care about spoilers, Caleb? Because like going back to that MCU tier list and like hearing you say that you were looking at like information before you saw No Way Home, that shocked me. So like, do you care if you get spoiled about a media before you see it?
When the hype reaches insane levels, I tell you, like some of these movies can just like consume my mind. Where I wake up and it's like, oh my God, 10 days until the movie comes out, I'm just searching the internet for like a full leak of the film. Like, can't wait. I don't know what it is. Like MCU in particular, like the big ones, like the Avengers, Spider-Man that have so much hype. Like I want to see it before anybody else does.
Yeah.
And I would never watch like a camera ever. But I get weak in those moments and I consider
wow.
Like I saw Tobey Maguire from like a theater like camcorder. For Spider-Man No Way Home. It was such a bummer, but it was
that's
cool.
so surprising. Because like, I mean, I wouldn't get like pissed if I got spoiled, but like it would definitely like ruin my like experience. And like going into like movies, like especially like No Way Home, man. Like I'm so thankful that I wasn't spoiled because like I think everybody knew like the Spider-Man were going to be there, but like not knowing how they're going to get introduced and like what they're going to play in the story, like man, that moment was so magical that like I'm very grateful that I didn't get spoiled. But
so it's kind of funny with No Way Home, but it became like a meme with leakers that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were actually not going to be in the film. Excuse me. And I was worried. Like that's kind of why I fell into like the leak doom thought process. Like, oh my goodness, like I don't want to think the old Spider-Man are going to be in this film, get my hype level up to here. They're not in it, and then it's a good Spider-Man film that I can enjoy because I'm sitting there for 2.5 hours waiting for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to show up. So I had to know for sure if they were going to be in it. And I got to give props to Disney, like for keeping as much as they did under wraps. Because it was like the day of when I finally went to go see it, and I still wasn't like entirely sure until I saw like, yep, people in China saw it and they're there. Here's the videos, here's the pictures.
Dang. Yeah, like literally like going back to that moment, like that was such a well-kept secret. Like shout out to the whole team on No Way Home, like just keeping that moment, special. But speaking of movies, I got a movie in my top 5. I think my favorite movie this year was Top Gun Maverick. I think the movie was incredible. Like like the thing that made Maverick so much more special to me is like I'm not a huge action guy outside of the MCU or like MCU like comic book movies in general. So I was going to Top Gun Maverick, seeing with my brother, my mom, my dad, all that stuff. Going into the theater, I was like, it's another action flick. But then the movie just really starts to get going. And like it starts to go to places that you never really thought it was going to go. So, and then the whole time, and it's like, because it came out in the summer, so it even had this like patriotic sort of vibe going with it. And it's like at the end of the movie, you're just like, hell yeah! Like you just have that like red, white, and blue running through your veins at the end of the movie. Just it felt very good. I can't remember last time like of course like movies that make you like make you hype, but like actually like feel good. Top Gun Maverick like especially like nailed that aspect.
I think there wasn't too much watching it that I felt was unexpected in the sense that I feel like it was a very basic story-wise film, but it had like that blockbuster spectacle. I feel like you don't have so often. Like in the scene where he's flying like over the base, and he like knocks the guard tower down. And it was a blooper, like the plane wasn't actually supposed to like, blow that set piece away, but it did. They were like, oh, that looks dope, and left in the film. And you go to the cinema, you watch it in the IMAX, and it looked awesome. Like it was so cool to see that. Like you kind of got chills as that like plane flew over while you have like the Dolby Atmos audio, like just making your blood pump.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Cruise really just doesn't make terrible action films. I don't think he can really do it anymore. I think he knows exactly what needs to be in it to get audiences like going crazy. And Top Gun Maverick was just so cool. I also like what it did to old people that love the originals, or the original. Like, oh my God, they were like so excited to go to the movies out of nowhere.
Right.
Like
right.
they all flocked to it. Like the people that are like 50, 60, 40, 60 were all about it. Like they had some insane hype. And I guess I was shocked to find out just how big Top Gun was in the 80s. Like it was big, but I guess I never imagined like, wow, like these guys really love it.
Because before Maverick, you always hear like, if someone says the name Top Gun, like you're gonna have like an inkling in your head, like, oh yeah, like Top Gun. And it's like Top Gun Maverick like kind of serves as like not even like a shift in the generation, but like it gives the newer watchers like their sort of piece of the pie, sort of be like, oh yeah, Top Gun's sick. I love Maverick. You maybe not watched the first one, or even if you watched it, you probably don't like it as much as Maverick, but like you're definitely in that Top Gun cult now after seeing Maverick for sure. But moving on to the next thing, I want to go from movies to a TV show. My number 4 this year was House of the Dragon. I think
House of Dragon.
I knew
that was coming.
Right, like Game of Thrones is back. Or like the whole like Game of Thrones culture is back. Like every Sunday night, you're always like kind of on Twitter after the episode, like seeing the memes and everything. It's like, but even before that, it's just like, man, like the Game of Thrones universe, it's just so enthralling. Like characters are sick, the politics is sick, just like the cinematography, everything. I mean, besides those like really dark scenes that like keep getting mean, but like, man, like it's just such an event to behold. And like my mom wanted to watch this for the first time, so like to get into the Game of Thrones universe, and like she's hooked. Like she loves this universe. So it's like, yeah, House of Dragons is back, baby. Game of Thrones.
I feel like that hype was so missed. Because you remember it whenever the Game of Thrones had like its original run, it was Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, and they would clear house every single year at the Emmys. And people were so excited about Game of Thrones, especially like the finale, and then it kind of sucked. So it was really cool to see people getting excited about something that was quality. Because it seems like the first season of House of Dragon, like nobody really had any beefs with it. Like it was a critical and commercial success. And I think I'm gonna like get on this bandwagon before long.
There we go.
Like I really do think I am. I'll probably end up like being a House of Dragon fan and then watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And it's like, and we have to look back at Game of Thrones too. Like that show for most people, like season 7 and 8, people didn't like. So to go from like those sort of like lackluster seasons to something that old Game of Thrones fans like love is like, yeah, that's saying a lot. Because people did not like season 7 and 8, and I can after watching it this summer, like I can see why people didn't like it. So I'm super glad that hype is back now. So, Caleb, what's your number 4?
So for my number 4, it's not a movie or TV show. It's actually like a headline. We went over it, but Bruce Willis selling his likeness to be made in future films.
Right.
I feel like this has to be listed just because it's such a game changer. It's part of this like further evolution of technology we're seeing. Where we're headed with metaverses, with films, and like how all this overlaps. But we are guaranteed to see Bruce Willis in video games, movies, or TV shows for who knows how long, like his likeness. And I think that's absolutely game changing. I wonder which other big name actors and actresses are about to sell their likeness, ensure that they become immortalized. We're going to grow up past the time Johnny Depp's even on this earth and probably still be able to catch like a new Johnny Depp flick or a Bruce Willis flick. And that is so cool. I think it's like terrifying in terms of ramifications for the industry.
Right.
For both the video game and filmmaking industry. I mean, these voice actors that are used for the same, games over and over and over, they're about to like, all right, here's the likeness of my voice. Oh, I'm done forever.
Jeez, that's
Um,
scary.
but it's so cool. Like I think whether it goes bad or good, whether like 40 years from now we look at everything, we're like, wow, I hate this. Like everything is so fake.
Mhm.
Like I'm tired of watching these dead actors or actresses, or it feels dystopian. Whatever happens, I'm gonna at least be thankful that I was part of the generation that got to see it. Because it's a huge deal. Like, we used to build statues of kings so they could be immortalized.
Mhm.
Statues like wither with time, but as long as the internet is up and running, like you truthfully can like live forever now. And I
Exactly.
think that's amazing.
Right. And that makes me back to did you see the Indiana Jones? I think it was the Indiana Jones trailer for the new one. And like they
It looks
de
awesome, doesn't
yeah.
it?
Well, I didn't see it actually, but I did see like a screenshot of Harrison Ford's face is looking like really young. So I was like, okay, yeah, this technology is getting crazy.
It was the best I've seen it ever.
Mhm.
And there's no way Harrison Ford could like look at some CGIing of his face. And if it's bad, he'll just be like, oh yeah, cool, whatever.
Right.
Like there's no way. I can't envision him as the type of person that would want to make something that's bad, even if it's
Mhm.
just like a portion of the film, like one scene where he's younger. Like he would ensure that his likeness is done appropriately. And you're right, it's actually amazing
Dude,
how good
it
they
blew my
did.
mind. I was like, wow. Like that, he looks so young here. I was like, geez.
The nostalgia went through the roof for me. Like
Mm.
I kind of want to go get the 4K Indiana Jones remasters now and
I
just go through them like Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Last Crusade.
yeah. Actually, I think the only Indiana Jones, and don't crucify me, Pop Cult Cat viewers. I said cat, cast viewers. But the only Indiana Jones film I saw was the one with Shia LaBeouf in it. What was it called?
Ooh.
Forgot what
Kingdom
it's
of the
called.
Crystal Skull. You watched definitively
The
the
worst.
worst one, and it's not even close.
No.
Like Temple of Doom was
Uh,
but The Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark, as films, not just action films, are great films.
yeah,
And then you got the one that's just a bad movie.
just
Like,
terrible.
really think about the differentiation. Good film, bad movie.
Damn it.
Hugely.
Man, actually makes me wonder, like, should they start remastering films? Like, how would they even, I don't even know how they would do that, but I'm thinking of like the video game industry. Like, I would love to watch Indiana Jones, but like I just don't like the look of old film. It just makes me like I'm just not into it.
Hear me out. The physical copies, like 4K Blu-ray remasters, or if you can get a streaming service that's actually fairly decent, like I think Peacock and Disney and HBO have like the best quality when it comes to streaming. Watching a 4K movie on Netflix is honestly not really worth it.
Yeah.
Um, but if you can get like the physical copy, like some of them look amazing. Like I watched the 4K remaster of Scarface. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, it was great. It looked like a film that was made like in the 2000s versus like the 1980s 1970s whenever it came out.
Right.
And I think that's a huge deal. Like Disney Plus has the 4K remasters of Star Wars.
That's what I was
They
thinking
look
about.
phenomenal.
Mhm.
And I think they do need to do that for like people like you guys or like younger viewers. Like my wife, she's 25 years old,
Mhm.
but she refuses to watch anything that was really made before time because of how it looks, because of the
Exactly. Yeah.
picture quality.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what you have to do to ensure some of these films that are worthwhile, that maybe don't have the notoriety of something like a Pulp Fiction or, a Goodfellas, don't get lost with time. Because think about it, like there's a film called The Graduate, 1968. Did you ever see it?
Uh, Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. It came out in 1968, but it is without a doubt one of my favorite films of all time with Dustin Hoffman. Incredible acting. It's actually where the song The Sound of Silence came from. Like Simon and Garfunkel recorded the soundtrack to the film.
Mhm.
Masterpiece of a film, but it doesn't have a 4K remaster or anything. And it's from 1968. Like you're gonna watch it in like 480p if you watch it today.
Ugh.
And it's gonna get lost to time. Like truthfully, it is, unless it's remastered, because younger people are gonna want to watch something where
Yeah.
they're like, wow, I think that block is that famous person from 100 years ago.
And that's a shame too, because like I don't want to be such a zoomer about it, but like it just really is such like a hurdle for me. Like I remember like taking back to Star Wars, watching the prequels. I believe it was in 2019. I was like, I randomly just like I want to watch the Star Wars films. So I watched the prequels, banger. But then I got to episode 4. I was like, ugh, this looks rough. I was like, I actually recently watched the rest of it. I was like, I got over it, but like, just the age of the film is very potent. And it's like, yeah. So
you want to know something that I feel like it's not just how a film looks. I feel like it is the fact that films are stylistically different in this day and age.
100%. Yeah.
And part of things being stylistically different, I think, is actually like a perfecting of the craft. Like horror films, right? Like somewhere once upon a time, somebody did like the first ever jump scare. It's probably Alfred Hitchcock, like, 100 years ago nearly.
Mhm.
But after that, that became the staple. Like once somebody invented the wheel, all these other movies are going to have the wheel, making like the first example of the wheel, not as cool. It's like, well, wow, that one didn't even have tread. If you see what I'm saying, like we just keep improving because whoever starts something new, it gets appropriated. And I feel like film and TV, like producers have this shit down to a science. I don't mean to swear, but I really do feel like it. Like they know, hey, no, we're not gonna, have a 10-second long shot. Cut it at 5 seconds to the next frame. Like that's what we're doing because we know viewers don't want to sit there and stare at like the trigger of a gun for 10 seconds.
Right.
In contrast, like an older film may have a close-up of like a candle or something. And that is like stylistically different. And I don't feel like it meshes with where we are as consumers. Like seriously, show Avengers Endgame to a 7-year-old and then show him 12 Angry Men, which is a classic, one of the best films ever made, but came out in the 50s. And they'll be begging you to turn it off.
Yeah. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Right. So unfortunate. But you know what's not unfortunate? My number 3 on my top 5 moments of 2022. It goes to the website twitch.tv where people live stream the games, live just whatever they really want to stream at this point. But Cenat, I would say probably the top Black streamer on the platform, hit 100,000 subs on Twitch. And I was like, that moment I was so proud of him for, because like you never really see Black people on Twitch, really get to these heights. You have the SQCs, the Shrouds, the Summits, you have a lot of, white streamers that have made it very successful on the platform. So to see Cenat like really get his dues, because he's an entertaining streamer. I don't watch him all the time, but I can definitely see why he is so prolific at this point. And to see him get to that height is just so sick to me. Like finally, like there's that, and sort of like an icon of the Twitch space to have his dues and like have and be a Black person that especially other Black kids can look up to and like kind of aspire to be like him, even though in the video I forgot what podcast it was where I was kind of like doom and gloom about like younger people looking up to Twitch streamers, but like just seeing another Black person get to like that point of success in the online space is just a huge W. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you kind of an intensive question, but I really am curious. Why do you feel like it's taken so long for a Black streamer to hit 100,000 subs on Twitch? Like, how come in this day and age do we still see, like, in popular media, it take far longer for a Black person to reach levels of fame? And it's not necessarily like there's a boss there at Twitch, promoting the white dude over the Black dude. Maybe it is, but like that's what I'm guessing is it's not the case. But viewers like still gravitate towards, like you said, like the X2Cs or the Hasanabis, people that are more like white or white passing and still like pass over like Black content creators. So I'm curious why you think that is.
Yeah, and that's a good question because like I so like just looking at Cenat and like their community, it's very much so like, how would I put this in like the least offensive way? Like just it's very not the white sort of layer that you come to see off of Twitch. It's very much so like, how can I, like if I could put an example, like like a high school, we're at the lunch table and it's like the boys just like chilling and like shooting the shit, and it's like it feels like that, and that it's very authentic, right? It's like I'm trying to see how I could say it, but for what I'm trying to say is that I don't think that style of Twitch streamer is someone that Twitch will want to put on their front page he's not like a squeaky clean sort of streamer. Like he is who he is. His community is who he is. And it's like, I never could see Twitch putting that on the front page. So, to add on to that, his success story is like to see him go through those odds of never being promoted by Twitch until recently when he was just about to hit 100,000, where Twitch posted on their Twitter profile, or not profile, but like their page, promoting Kai's stream. I was like, yeah, like that's super dope to see that, Twitch is acknowledging this streamer for once, and it's, I think it is like a culture thing that they don't really want to promote that sort of stream where, you hear the N word every other, minute or whatever. But it's like, if that's their stream, that's their stream. And it's like, it's popular for a reason. And my big thing is like, if it's not spreading anything negative, go ahead and promote the guy, you always promote these other people on, your front page, but I've never seen a black streamer on the front page besides February when it's Black History Month. They just put a black stream on there every other day. So it's like, yeah, go, you do your thing, Kai. You're killing it, bro.
Do you feel like Speed would have had as many subs as Kai if he wasn't banned?
Actually, yeah.
I know he's like banned on everything, even TikTok now. Like Speed is gone.
I think Speed would have definitely, he definitely would have probably been the biggest black streamer on the platform. But Speed, all the drama he's been through and is going through, it is like, yeah, he's not a very good look for Twitch or just like any real like social media platform at this point. He just keeps messing up.
I was reading his Wikipedia, right? Because obviously, like Speed just kind of like took over my algorithm on TikTok, like 3-4 months ago, something like that. And I was like, "Who is this kid? This kid's hilarious. What? He's only like 17 years old, and he's making like this absolutely hilarious, like quick little content that I'm seeing."
Yeah.
And I was reading why he was banned. And this is so terrible, but I laughed so hard. I laughed just reading what he said.
Let's
so
see which one
apparently
it
he
was.
like this speed dating.
Oh yeah, so this is what I was thinking about. Oh my, this one's terrible.
And yeah, I can't believe, like, why would you say that? But at the same time, like, it's so ludicrous that somebody would actually say that. Like, I'm not going to repeat it just because I want to amplify. Because I do think, like, I need to like stay like, yeah, don't say something like that. That's not really like, it shouldn't be a joke. But it's because I feel like most people feel the way I do right now. That that's not a joke. That's not funny. And he still did it. Like,
said it right.
Like Eric Andre like style humor, like so unexpected. Like,
exactly.
I mean, I bawled laughing reading a Wikipedia page. Like, that's crazy.
Right. It's like the professional tone of it, like professional tone of it explaining like what he said. It's like that has to be like a pretty funny thing to read. But I'm curious what your number 3 is, Mr. Caleb.
So my number 3 is going to be the finale season of Better Call Saul.
Oh, okay. That's a nice call.
So the reason this is going to be included is I think Vince Gilligan has done something special with his universe where he has constantly been able to make top of the line television programs. He had the success with Breaking Bad. Everybody knows that, but like, can you do it again? Can you reach levels of greatness like Breaking Bad a second time?
Yeah.
And Better Call Saul did that, but in a different way. It's not the same as Breaking Bad. Right. You're not getting as much action. There's a lot more downtime talking. And I would even say character development in Better Call Saul. Like, you end up getting more invested in these characters than you ever did with Breaking Bad, which is crazy. Like Saul Goodman and his wife Kim in the show, like their relationship and everything they're doing and how they change over time. I was so invested. I don't think my wife and I were nearly as invested in Breaking Bad as we were with the show. I'm not going to say it's better than Breaking Bad. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, I do think like Walter White is the best character ever written, film, TV, book, comic book, anything. Like, I think he is definitively the GOAT character. But they did something special again with this. And the ending, it was so perfect. It was so good. Like, it left you feeling like you watched something special. Like, the 6 seasons I invested my time in that show were not at all a loss of time. I felt every ounce of drama, every bit of pain these characters felt when like some of the characters died. Like, one character died. Not going to drop spoilers since it is still this year, and I'll let people catch up into the next year. But one character died, And dude, it felt like somebody in my real life died. Like I
Damn.
was very conscious of this. Talking to my wife, I was like, yo, do you feel like one of our friends just died? And she's like, yeah, like we went to bed upset after that episode, watching it like live that night. Like just sitting there thinking, like, why'd they do this character like that? That's amazing. Like that's exactly as an artist, what you should be doing is whatever form of art you create, you're hoping that somebody out there is just having a moment with it, just like truly appreciating, like, wow, I'm still alive, I'm here to this day, and I'm able to sit here and watch this amazing show that makes me just like feel things I can't even comprehend. And Vince Gilligan did it again. Like, and I think that's so amazing. Like two shows in a row. How do you possibly make the number one and number two shows of all time? Like that's insane.
Wow.
Like
Yeah,
who
yeah.
hits like that? Like I can't think of any novelist, any like TV showrunner, any filmmaker, screenwriter who does something like that.
Mhm.
It's crazy to say,
Yeah.
but he did it. And it's not like just two movies, you know, like it's not like Tarantino. Tarantino's had 10 bangers, and it's amazing that he's never made a bad film. Everybody's in all of that, but making a TV show is such a huge commitment. Like 6 years, we followed it and never once did it go down. And it just adds to the 5-6 years we already had of Breaking Bad. A decade of excellence is what Vince Gilligan gave us. Like, I'm at a loss for words. Like, I could talk about how like amazing this guy is for what he's created, but anybody that's seen it would know I'm not talking in hyperbole. I'm not capping right now. Straight up facts. Like, this is it. Like,
Yeah,
Better Call Saul is the shit.
yeah. I started watching Better Call Saul probably like a few months ago, and I do think it's pretty good, but I think now it makes me want to have watched it when it was like airing live, so like I could have that sort of breathing time, because I do think the show, where it kind of differs from Breaking Bad and can kind of lose me at points, is kind of I wouldn't say it's, I'm not sure if to say it's slow, or it's just not enough action. And I don't want to sound like that guy, like, oh, there's not enough action in this thing, like I can't watch, or I'm not excited about it. But there's a lot of downtime, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of discussions, and like you said, that leads to character development. But like when you're binge watching it like I did, it's kind of like you kind of get thrown out of it a little bit. But I like what you said about how, what's the director's name, or you said it's Vince Gilligan, is that his name?
Yes, Vince
Yeah, yeah.
Gilligan.
And it's like that's so sick to hear you say that, like he's struck, or he's caught lightning in a bottle twice. So now I'm just like, I wonder if he can hit that 3P. I don't know if there's any like other characters in the Breaking Bad universe he can make a separate story with, but like I'm curious if he can hit that 3P and make catch another lightning.
I feel like to an extent he kind of already did, because he did make the Breaking Bad movie El Camino. Which was a phenomenal film. It shows he can, like, TV or film, like, pick a medium, he can kill it. And I think he did. Granted, I want to see what else he can offer outside the Breaking Bad universe. I think he's on that page personally. Like, that's what it seems like. So we'll see what he does, but I'm convinced he's going to make something absolutely amazing.
One thing that I really liked about Better Call Saul, like in my watch time, I put it down too. I feel like I'm going to pick it up again at some point. But like I really loved like Kim and Kim Wexler and Jimmy's relationship, because like I think with media nowadays you're kind of expecting for like, maybe it's not an expectation, but like there's moments in the show where like they're alone together, talking. It's like, oh, they're gonna get a little steamy here, but like they always keep it like professional and like friendly, and there's never really like a sexual tension between the two. And it's like I found that very refreshing, especially like just looking how like kind of like sex, or not oriented, but like how sex can be like put into media and like kind of pushed, because sex is like an arousing experience, whatever.
Yeah, it sells.
Right. And then to see like their relationship being so friendly and so platonic, and it's so like even, like it felt very refreshing to watch on screen. I don't know if you felt the same way, but I love their relationship.
I think just not in Better Call Saul, but like media in general, I'm kind of overseeing sex simulated in film. Yeah. Like, you don't need to show me two characters naked or like getting it on to imply that they had sex, or that's where like the momentum of that scene went.
Right.
And I feel like it's really lazy writing to, sell tickets. Like if you get an actress that's, like willing to take her top off, like you can hope you can sell a few extra tickets,
Yeah.
ensure people watch your show. But unless it's like really serving a purpose to the product, I don't see it being necessary anymore. And I think you're right. Better Call Saul did an amazing job of not having, same with Breaking Bad. It didn't need sex to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there's violence and drugs, but it's missing the sex, but it was still perfect. Like you did not need it to enjoy either of these TV programs. And I think in the terms of Better Call Saul, like what it did for the characters is it allowed us to see them more for who they really are and what they're interested in and what they want to be.
Right.
Like they're always kind of like looking forward to the future and how they're going to shape it. And we had that much more time to go on that journey with the characters because there wasn't, really pointless downtime to get a few more views.
Yeah. Better Call Saul, man. I'm gonna get back to it. I forgot what season I stopped on or what episode, but now that you like really like,
it's a slow burn, and I'm not gonna say it's
slow.
ever like so action packed. That's what does it. It's just what events take place and how they transform the characters that makes it get better and better as it goes on. It ain't just like fine wine, dude.
I don't think my jaw. I won't go into sewer spoilers here, but like, I don't think my jaw dropped as hard as when that thing happened to Jimmy's brother and like what was it? I forgot where they were. I think it wasn't a laundromat. It was like it was a thing where like, he got like the X-Acto knife and he was doing a thing with like the newspaper, like and messing with Jimmy's head. It's like, and then when like that all like culminated to that thing happening to his brother, I was like, yo, like the writing of like these shows are like the consequences that happen in these shows, like it's real. I can feel it. So like that moment right there was pretty goated. So
Vince Gilligan wrote an amazing, like has a knack for writing characters you hate, like Skylar White, and then not James McGill, Charles McGill, Chuck McGill, and Better Call Saul. Two characters you just hate. Like I don't think I've ever hated a character as much as I hated Chuck. Like he was just so evil to his brother, dude.
I mean, like maybe not, maybe like further down the line, but in the beginning, like you were kind of just like, yeah, like slipping Jimmy. Like he's kind of like a I don't know, like especially when you get to that scene where he was talking about like when his mother was on the deathbed and like all she could remember was Jimmy and not him. And I was like maybe it's just like different family dynamics, but like that stuff could really be deep seated, right? So like you could so it's just like I wasn't completely against him, but there was definitely some points I was like, Chuck, let's simmer down a little bit. You're being a little too
Well, he tried to get his own brother disbarred because he resented the fact that his brother went to a school that wasn't nearly as good as his, and because he believed that his brother was just irredeemable and could never do anything, which kept pushing his brother down that path. And like, yeah, he had the resentment from everything that took place with the mom and dad before they had passed on. But like, you're the brother that really had it all. Like you had a stable marriage, like top of your law firm, like considered one of the best lawyers in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And you still had to ensure that your brother was below you, like just at all points in time. And I can't even like imagine if your own brother did that to you. Like you became a lawyer, you worked really hard for something, and they had to take that away from you just because they couldn't handle your success.
Right.
Like that's
like
what enemies do, not brothers.
True,
like
right.
you wouldn't even do that to somebody you hate, let alone your brother.
So was that before or after Jimmy, like what did he do? He messed with one of the court documents to make Charles look crazy. Was that before or after that? You know what I'm talking about?
I think it was after.
Okay.
After.
All right. Makes sense. But yeah, Charles, yeah, it's definitely seen it, and that's the writing for these Better Call Sauls and Breaking Bad's. Like they're really good. They're very like ethically like engaging. But speaking of engaging, my number two on my top 5 of 2022. We're getting to the bottom of it. My number 2 is Elden Ring. Like easily.
It makes so much sense. Yeah,
easy the most engaging video game I played in my life. Like legitimately, this game is so industry breaking that like it literally made other developers pissed. Like, because people were making their like memes about their games. Like, I remember Ubisoft was probably one of the biggest people like hating on Elden Ring because like speaking of like open worlds or like, and that's what Elden Ring was so special about, is that the open world of Elden Ring truly felt like an open world. Like anything could happen at any point. You can go anywhere you wanted to without an invisible wall or anything. And people were like memeing on Ubisoft for like their open worlds having like this 5D user interface of having like different places where you need to go and this like thing you need to track. Where Elden Ring is just like, bro, just explore. That's all. That's it. Just explore, and it's like the world that Miyazaki created was just it's beautiful, man. Like it's truly a game that you need to experience. Like it's probably the one game I can say, even if you haven't gamed at all, and it would be like a pretty big undertaking to get into for your first game, but like this is a game you need to experience. Like legitimately, especially you're going to appreciate it more the more skin you have in the video game realm, because you'll understand really why this thing was so special. But yeah, man, this is going to go down as, unless like some a new From Software game comes out to like really blow this one out of the water, but like it's definitely a cornerstone in gaming history for throughout time. This game is perfection.
I feel like with the newer generation of consoles, the RPGs have gone to whole new heights. Like think about just a few years ago, we had Red Dead Redemption 2, and now we have Elden Ring, and Bethesda has 2 new RPGs on the horizon with Elder Scrolls 6, and I think it's called Starfield.
Yeah, Starfield, yeah.
Starfield, like, and these are huge, massive games. And I gotta say, like, these RPGs are so in depth that they are more open to casual gamers than I feel like ever before, or like people that haven't played a video game would be interested. Like I told you, like my wife never really played a video game in her life, played the entirety of Red Dead Redemption 2. And
I say, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what these RPG games really have the ability to do. And I feel like Elden Ring like took everybody's soul this year. Like
literally,
it was so hyped up during the summer. And it ends up winning at the Game Awards, which we'll
we're gonna
talk
talk about that one, right?
long, but
and it's like another thing I want to give kudos to Elden Ring for is like like think of how fast the social media attention span is, and like think like one thing will happen a Monday, people will forget by that Monday evening, right? And it's like Elden Ring came out in February, whatever it was, and people were still talking about it, posting clips, and like really giving these like in-depth discussions about it like 4 months later. Like, I can't remember the last time a media thing has ever done that. Like, No Way Home is like arguably like one of my favorite movies or superhero movies all time, and like people were talking about that for a little minute, but like it didn't last for 4 months. Like this is like it's such a cultural moment that I had to put it on my list. Like it's the epitome of culture breaking and what this channel is, like pop culture. So I had to add it in there for this list.
Am I on number 2?
Number 2, yeah.
So maybe I should have had my list down to 4 since I'm already ready to jump to number 1.
Okay.
But
I'm curious.
You know what? I'll throw something in number 2.
Oh, I already know what it is.
So much.
Okay.
Modern Warfare 2 dropping this year. I think that was a huge deal in the Warzone 2 release, because I feel like Warzone has a special place in gamers' hearts because of the pandemic. Like in 2020, Warzone dropped, and there were so many people stuck at home playing that game. And I feel like this Warzone really is an evolution of that, adding proximity chat to where it's a very social game in a way that I don't think video games have really hit before. Like, for example, earlier, I was playing a solo match by myself, running around the map, and I'm blasting Eminem through my headset. So that way I can mess with enemy players. Like I'm singing along with it, so they can't hear me going up the steps. All they hear is me singing Eminem, like without me or whatever. And like a few of the people enjoyed that I was singing, and they joined me. And we were like technically enemies just going around the map shooting people out of a heli, like in a game mode where you're not supposed to be able to do that, but you can because of the proximity chat. And like the way it took over TikTok, like so quick. Even my wife was watching proximity chat, like funny clips or whatever, whenever Warzone 2 first dropped, just because there was so much potential for it to be hilarious. Like people like finding little kids playing the game, and they're like, "Oh, I lost my brother. I just want to buy him back." And they're like, "Oh, I'll help you." Shoots him, and the kid's crying. Like there's just so many ways you can make it funny. But I think what ultimately made this like the perfect experience for me, and why I'm going to even add it to the list, is because it pissed off the established video game streamers, which I feel like was desperately needed. So just a few days ago, Tim the Tap Man and a few other streamers came out and said, hey, our Warzone 2 content is not doing good. Nobody's watching it. Good. Like, I haven't watched any of those guys' content at all since this one dropped, because I feel like I don't need to. It's a much more casual experience that I don't feel like I need to watch these streamers to the latest, greatest guns. But it really put in perspective for me how horrible the content of these guys is. Like, really next level bad, gimmicky little thumbnails. They have no personality. Yeah. Like, truth be told, if they did have like a third of the video game talent, none of these guys would be famous. Like, Tim the Tap Man probably would, because he's funny. Dr. Disrespect, you know, some of the obvious, but like some of these people in like FaZe Clan and things like this, like some of these big clans, like they're boring, they're lame, they're corny. And as a matter of fact, like I hate seeing their thumbnails is like, wow, this punk is making way more money than I ever will and lives in Cali where it's warm.
Right.
And is doing what I want to do. He's playing COD all day.
This should be
like,
me.
I hate this guy. I hope his channel fills. And a lot of them are upset. Like, they're so mad because the game is less competitive than the previous incarnation. And you know what? I think it's a W. Like, a dad that's come home, has to take care of his kids, help out with dinner, you know, take out the trash after a 9-to-5 shift, and then finally gets the kids to sleep and they can play a game. You know what? I think that dude deserves a shooter where he doesn't have to jump around and do cartwheels to be competitive. He can just aim and shoot. Exactly. And I feel like that's why this has been a huge W for me. Like, I'm taking a great pleasure in overly competitive people that will do terrible things like intentionally match against like disabled kids in bot lobbies. Or like old people that, you know, like really are trying to learn and understand the game and they ruin their experience with, you know, just trying to make clips for TikTok. I think it's so lame. And I'm kind of glad that this game is like the antithesis to that type of content. Like, now you actually have to make content with a personality.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I haven't played a Call of Duty since like probably like Black Ops 3, probably like the beta that came out for that game. But you know, looking at Modern Warfare 2 remastered, is it called remastered or just Modern Warfare 2?
Remastered.
Okay, yeah, it's like, you know, even I had a little gripes with it because, like, you know, I have a cold fist towards remakes in the video game community, our industry, and like seeing this game of such stature of Modern Warfare 2, when you hear that name, you're like, you think of like the sandy cover of the soldier coming down, like the green lettering of the Modern Warfare 2. And, you know, I was kind of like jaded towards this new, this new kid on the block trying to take that name. And it's like, you know, if anything, I'm just glad that people like this new Call of Duty. You know, the kids can finally say that they played Modern Warfare 2, even if it might not be the classic one, but they get the essence of it, especially with the story mode, which I heard is pretty great. So
it's been pretty good so far. I've enjoyed it. And normally I don't play Call of Duty storylines, just for the Modern Warfare games.
Gotcha. Well, Kel, I want you to hit your number one off, since I already know what it is.
Because you know what it is.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Anybody that knows me knows that this would be my number one. So in the year 2022, the greatest film that's ever been made came out, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I think it's still underappreciated.
Underappreciated?
Yeah, I'm kind of aggravated a little bit because I'm not so confident that it's going to go clean house at the Oscars next year. And if in March it does not win Best Picture, I think I'm going to crash an award show. I'll pull out my best like Kanye, Taylor Swift, circa 2008 impression. But like, hey, but Everything Everywhere All at Once was the greatest film of all time.
Wow.
But seriously though, like I feel like it's kind of gone under the radar later in the year. Like, it was huge when it first came out because I don't think anybody expected to go into the theater and watch one of the best films ever made. A lot of people went into this A24 film and were blown away. But I think this film is huge because of what it really is. It is an Asian American film, right? It's a film about an immigrant family and their struggles that takes a multi-dimensional twist that turns it into an action film, that turns it into a comedy film. But the root, it is a story about family. And even though they are an immigrant family, anybody in the world can relate to them and their desire to be like close and to overcome the struggles of life together. And I got to tell you, it's one of those films that you just sit back and think about life when it's over. You think about your place in the world. This film quite literally changed my personal philosophy on life. Like they said it a lot in the film, nothing matters, right? But whenever I went to the movie theater and I saw it back in what, March, April, that's when it came out, somewhere around
March, yeah.
March. I feel like I was in a place where I was taking so many things serious, was facing the pressures of graduation coming. I never felt like I had relaxed like in the past like 6, 7, 8 years. Like ever since I went in the military, I felt like everything was always work, pain, like suffering, really. I know that sounds very gloom, but I felt like it was just that over and over and over. And I go in and watch this film that really made me fall in love with movies again. Like, why did I watch something like Goodfellas when I was like 13, 14? And the reason I picked it up is because a lot of critics said it was one of the best films ever made. And if you want to understand films, if you love them and you want to see how they're made and what they're all about, this is a film that you should watch. And that feeling I had as a kid, like falling in love in front of a television set, I truthfully had it again there in the theater. Like I felt like I had, you've seen the movie Ratatouille, right?
Yeah.
And you know that like film critic that's like the bad guy, but the truth is he's not a bad guy. He's just kind of grim because he's waiting on that meal that reminds him of home, that reminds him of what it was like when his mom made those dumplings that honestly were store-bought. There was nothing amazing, but it was your mom making it, and it, you know, brought the good in him out. That's what I felt like was going on whenever I was watching Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like all these memories about my life as I'm watching these characters have their own memories about life. And in a weird way, finding my place in the world and where I wanted to go from here and being content. That's amazing. Like, that's not just a list of like, oh, best media moments. Like, that's a list of like meaningful moments in your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So of course it's got to be my number one.
That's huge, man. Like, I don't think I've ever, I mean, like I've had media that's maybe like literally like bawled my eyes out and like really made me feel emotional, but I don't think I've ever had that moment yet of like, it literally changed my worldview. So like for a movie to do that, especially one that kind of went under, like going into the movie's release, it went under the radar, and then it became like probably like I can't think of a bigger indie darling than Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like that movie like hit like a bag of bricks. Like that movie, like you would not stop hearing about this movie. Like, you know, the social media caught on, like, you know, people saying that I bawled my eyes out throughout this movie. It's like, yeah, I think, yeah. Even though like I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie, like this movie definitely hit home for a lot of people, and like seeing that emotional reaction that people got, that yeah, it's something that you can't really deny. It's something that hits home, and like when you're looking at media, that's all you can really hope for at the end of the day, is that it really gives you something to latch onto, and it's like, yeah, shout out to Everything Everywhere All at Once. I keep almost like almost messing up that title every time I say it, but.
It's so hard to say. Like,
right. It's like, holy shit.
Whenever you called it, what'd you call it? EEAO or something like that?
They're all at once. So yeah, something like that.
And I was like, yeah, I feel like this is what I need to refer to this film as. Just
or just call like Everything. Or something like just something simple. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely a wordy title, but it was worth it. Like if every word in that title was a star, like indeed a 5-star film.
Dang, that was kind of sick. But you know, wrapping up.
I'm so glad that it actually was 5 stars.
I was like, one in my head, I was like, I was like, yo, I was like, is that fun? I won't question you, but you know,
accidentally smooth,
right? But you know, wrapping up, my number one. This one's kind of a cop out. This one's kind of, you know, like boo, but like my favorite pop culture moment of 2022 was starting this podcast. So, but you know, like, you know, getting on here and talking to my co-host Caleb for the past, you know, almost 6 months, talking about all the pop culture stuff happening, and like really starting something and sticking to something for this long, you know, it's really like taught me how to, you know, especially with content creation, like evolve, right? Like, and you know, everybody else is doing social media, but you know, this feels special in that, you know, it's just two homies just like talking about stuff we like, and like hopefully like it's something that you guys like and stuff that you guys want to see. And it's like, yeah, man, just it feels good. This podcast feels good. We're getting in our groove. 2022 we started, in 2023 that's our year, baby. Like 2020 year is gonna be our year. We're coming in hot. So
I remember one time we talked about potentially doing a segment where we explain like why we started the podcast in general. But I feel like since you're saying it was one of your top moments, if I'm going to be real, I should have mentioned it at least as an honorable mention then, because this was like a huge deal. Like I think we've, top videos had 100 views. It's not gained like traction or a viral moment or anything like that.
Yeah.
But to like come home and wonder like if something like that would or would not happen has been cool, because I put myself into the position to where something like that could or could not happen. I never really envisioned myself starting a podcast online. I was always like kind of nervous about broader internet opinion, or the fact that people on the internet are pretty nasty or terrible or whatever. And I was like, I don't want to deal with that. I like the peacefulness of my life right now.
Right.
But this has been amazing.
And it's like this awesome. This podcast has like its own little origin story, which someday we'll probably like get into. But like it literally just started from like Caleb texting me like, "Hey, you like we're into pop culture. Let's start a pop culture podcast. Like, let's do it." And it's like we can look back at I don't know about you, but have you watched that first episode like recently?
Not recently, no. It's been a hot minute.
Me neither. I'm like, I want to go back to that episode. We'll probably do like. You know what? We'll probably do like when that episode turns a year old. Why not? We'll probably just watch it and it's like, oh wow, that's definitely different. Than like
that would be cool. That would be very cool. But mostly just because in general, I never like actually look back at myself or anything. So that would be really cool to do.
Right. But yeah, man, I think that's a good place to end it. Like the Pop Cult Cast, last episode 2022. 2023, like I said, is going to be our year. Fun fact, my Chinese New Year animal is the year of the rabbit, and next year is the year of the rabbit. So I'm feeling ready.
Nice.
Yeah. But
I'm pretty sure my Chinese New Year sign is a dog, which is so ironic considering my name means dog in Hebrew.
Wow.
At least
it's ironic. Yeah. And it's like I used to be very like fun, like just tangent, but like I remember back when I was a kid, like I used to hate my zodiac sign for Chinese New Year. Like ew, a rabbit, like that's so like it's so lame. Like when you have like dragons, like bro, I want to be a dragon. Where's my dragon at? I have a rabbit, but
well, rabbits are fast,
witty.
I guess with dogs, I can just say that I'm loyal. Dogs are loyal pack animals.
But yeah, guys, I cannot wait to see you guys in 2023, and I hope you guys can't wait to see us. That's our top 5 list. I want to hear what you guys have for your top 5 and auto mentions. Leave it down in the comments and let us know, and we'll catch you next year.